Court.
Thanks. Let me just grab my screen here. Okay, thank you. The real problem we have in California is we have 5 refiners that make 97% of our gasoline, and when they want to squeeze us, they can. You'll see they squeezed us hard this year. We had a $2.60 gap with U.S. gas prices, and that was really historic. We've never had anything like that. If you add environmental rules and taxes, it should be about 69 cents we pay more in California. The last time we had a gap, it was $1.60 greater, and that was in 2015 after the Exxon Torrance refinery blew up. When gas prices spike, the people who get hit most are the low-income workers. At $4 a gallon, a minimum wage worker will spend 9% of their out-of-pocket after-tax income on gas. At $6 a gallon, it's 13% of a minimum wage worker's what they spend on gas. And if you doubt that it resulted in windfall profits, it did. The big 5 oil refiners had, in the first 9 months when the real gouging went on, we had almost a quadrupling of profits. And if you take the whole year, it was a tripling of profits. But more granularly, we actually do look at the refining margins that are presented to investors by the companies themselves over the last 20 years. This is their actual gross refining margins, the difference between the petroleum products they sell and the crude oil that goes in. And you'll see over the last 20 years, they made a 32-cent profit per gallon, for want of a better word. But this year, you'll see that profit per gallon is $1.12, $1.01, 82 cents, 78 cents. Only 3 times in the last 20 years have oil refiners made more than 50 cents per gallon in profit or as a refining margin. One was 2015, one was 2007, and all the time it was Chevron. None of the other refiners eclipsed 50 cents per gallon until this year, in which all of them did it. Every refiner eclipsed that, what I would set as a windfall profit line. And if you look at the margins for the whole year for these companies, they more than doubled their margins at the refining level. 2022, they hit 66 cents per gallon in profit. Their average was 32 cents per gallon historically. This is a refining problem. This is a refining surcharge. There is no mystery here in what happened in 2022. It is all about the refining sector. Oil refiners made 30% more profit from the West Coast / California than from any of the other regions around the world. This is their own reported data. And this is another expression of it. The solid line is what they made in elsewhere, and the dotted line is what they made in California. So we looked at 4 of the 5 refiners and applied this 50-cent cap, and we found that if you did a penalty at that 50-cent line, they'd owe $1.8 billion, $1.8 billion back to California consumers. We'll get to Chevron in a moment, but why a price gouging penalty? It creates price consistency. This is the thing that people have to understand about stopping a price spike. When it goes up, when a fill-up is $20 more, and that's in a matter of 2 weeks, people can't afford it. A price gouging penalty creates consistency and deters the profit spikes, which is every time you have a price spike, you have a profit spike because the cost of production doesn't go up, just the ability to charge for it. So this deters profiteering. It also prevents oil refiners from using their pricing power to undermine our environmental laws, which is a lot of what we believe happened this year. Why the price was so great when there was no apparent shock to the market, no apparent shock to supply, but prices were $2.60 greater. So the price gouging penalty has already had an impact. If you look after Governor Newsom made his announcement on October 7th of a special session, Valero's margins went right back down to their historic norms. From a high of 60 cents, went right back down to 36 cents. And not only that, their margins for the rest of the year were higher in California, as is the pattern, than everywhere else. But yet, after the governor made the announcement, in the fourth quarter, their margins were lower in California than anywhere else. Same pattern with PBF. PBF's margins went right down to 41 cents. Its historic margin, I think, is 39 cents. And Chevron. Chevron is a unique case. Chevron made 85 cents per gallon profit off West Coast refining, which is a staggering amount. The last greatest margin they had was in 2015 when they made 65 cents. This year was 85 cents, and this is just refining. This is not downstream. If you apply the 50-cent line, they would owe $1.4 billion back to the California public. All told, all 5 refiners would owe $3.1 billion back if you drew that windfall profits line at 50 cents. Now, you asked about precedent. There is a precedent for imposing a reasonable rate of return, which is what a windfall profits line is. On the insurance industry, in 1988, we imposed a reasonable rate of return standard. They can't make more than a certain amount of money in the property casualty industry. The insurers threatened to leave the state, and yet now we have the second most competitive auto insurance market in the world, and the cost of liability insurance has decreased by 5.7%. In California, while nationwide it went up 58%. These are some of the editorials when they sued to leave the state. They won the right to leave the state. They never left because they're making so much money here, because it remains so lucrative, and neither will the refiners. One more example is the HMO profit loss ratio. Under Obamacare, we set a 15% limit on profits, 20% limit for the individual market, and it's kept insurance rates down. Another good example. The last slide shows that there is huge public support behind this proposal. More than 6 in 10 voters backed the proposal, 64% when you call it a windfall profits tap, 62% when you call it a price gouging rebate. This was done in October before the election. There was another more recent poll done by Mr. Binder in January, and it showed the numbers are growing, 66% support, even though the price of gas has come down since then. I'll end there, but I will say in response to one of the other experts, when is a windfall a windfall? When the profits are double what your standard profits are, when the profits are only eclipsed 3 times in the last 20 years, that's when a windfall is a windfall, and that's when we have to take it back as a state. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Mr. Winger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. John Winger here on behalf of the California Fuels and Convenience Alliance. Our members make up the fuel supply chain below the refinery level, so that includes fuel transport and retail gas stations, which are primarily small family and minority-owned businesses. We appreciate the opportunity to share our perspective on the legislation in front of us. Historically, California has always dealt with abnormally high gas prices due to high taxes and fees, environmental regulations, and higher than average labor and property costs. Over the last decade, we have seen a larger gap between California prices and the rest of the nation, which has included even more volatile price spikes in the market. Our members are acutely aware of the challenges we see in the marketplace, and we strive to provide reliable fuel at a competitive price to all of our customers. From our members' perspective, nothing about the current situation is surprising. Over the last decade, the legislature and administration have implemented dozens of policies that have reduced refinery capacity and strangled supply in the state. This has led to less slack in the supply system that's resulted in greater reliance on imported carbob gasoline, which is subject to the spot market and increased price volatility by traders. This will continue to be the case if CARB and others continue to focus on electric vehicles being the only option for reducing emissions. We have alternative fuels that can be deployed right now that would dramatically reduce tailpipe emissions, reduce demand on gasoline, and meet the needs of all Californians. Without embracing alternative fuels, the adoption rate of EVs will continue to lag significantly, leaving demand for fuel high while supply continues to be reduced, further increasing costs. When looking at the disparity between California gas prices and the rest of the nation, it's not just the taxes and environmental programs that make up the difference. It's also the growing costs we've seen at the retail level. It's been referred to as a mystery surcharge today. I don't think it's a mystery for us. Increased labor costs, PAGA lawsuits, redundant compliance costs with 42 different state and local agencies, EMV upgrades, trucking costs, and other state mandates have made it difficult to operate as a station in California, and many of our station owners are either leaving or they're choosing to shift their liabilities over to being a branded station. And so that's increasing costs further. That's limiting competition further, and I think it's been discussed a few times that that's not good on the street level. As an industry, we believe there are solutions to addressing these unique costs to California. However, we believe SB X1-2 would move in the wrong direction. As drafted, levying a tax on refiners would, with what is deemed as excess profits tax, we would argue that there would only be really two outcomes to that. Either the refiner has to pay that tax and that gets passed on to the consumer, or they try to stay below that threshold by limiting supply. I think either way, we're going to see either higher costs or limited supply at the retail level. We've seen that in the 70s with long lines at the pump. We saw that in the 80s with increased prices and reduced supply. And so instead of going down the same failed road that we've been down before, we believe the legislature should focus solutions on stabilizing supply when there are disruptions, reducing redundant and unnecessary regulations at the retail level, and embracing alternative fuels that can help drive down demand at a faster rate. So thank you again, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. And next up, we have Casey Siegel, Senior Counsel with the Climate Law Institute.
Thank you, and a big thank you to Governor Newsom and Senator Skinner for this urgently needed legislation. And I want to address the oil industry's attempt to blame the state's life-saving health and safety protection laws instead of their own price gouging for high gas prices. This has been going on for years, but today's example is the dishonest effort to overturn SB 1137, which protects the more than 2 million Californians who live within 3,200 feet of toxic oil drilling operations. And thank you, Senator Gonzalez, so much for your bill. The oil industry's argument against the bill is that it will drive up gas prices by decreasing in-state production. And so while I agree with Severin Bornstein that in-state crude oil production levels are not actually relevant to today's gas prices, it's relevant because the oil industry just spent $20 million to qualify the referendum on it with this precise argument. So in the written materials that I've provided, you'll see on page 2, there's a graph, California production of crude oil from the U.S. Energy Information Administration. You can see the long-term steady decline since 1986. That's because the easy oil and the high-quality oil is long gone. And so industry has to use more energy, more toxic chemicals, and do ever more damage to our health and climate to get an ever decreasing amount of lower quality oil. So health and climate protections are not the cause of the long-term terminal decline of California oil production. But these protections are absolutely essential to limit the additional harm that the oil industry is going to do on its way out the door. Industry's attack on SB 1137 is a direct attack on the communities of color that are disproportionately harmed by the filthy, dangerous neighborhood oil drilling that has gone on for far too long. And make no mistake, as the climate emergency intensifies, this industry knows its days are numbered. It's doing everything possible to maximize its profits and stick Californians with the bill. And the pain at the pump that the industry has caused, even as that demand for gasoline is declining, it's just one slice of the devastation it has intentionally inflicted. Knowing for over half a century that its product wrecks the climate, Big Oil chose to lie about the science and block the needed shift to renewable clean energy. Decades ago, Exxon's climate models were better than NASA's at predicting today's warming, and yet Big Oil embarked on a deception campaign that is so breathtaking in its scale and scope, and so harmful that it's hard to fully wrap your head around it. And that's why I've included in your references in the handout a memo from the U.S. House of Representatives investigation of fossil fuel industry disinformation. It focuses not just on the lies about the science, but the ways in which industry continues to block progress through greenwashing and promoting false solutions that are designed to prolong the use of fossil fuels. The climate crisis inflicted on us by Big Oil, it's already costing billions. It's going to get far worse. It's why so many local governments in California are suing the big producers to recover some of those damages. And the fact that this industry is price gouging on top of all the other harm it has caused is truly staggering. And it's not just the ripoff at the pump that's the problem. It's the lying, the astroturfing, through the manufacture of fake groups to oppose climate policy, for which WISPA is well known. It's the vicious attacks on scientists and manufacture of fake experts. It's the use of the windfall profits that they're getting for lawsuits, not just the industry cases against climate and health laws, which are legion, but the retaliatory lawsuits like the slap suit brought by SIPA, another oil trade association, against environmental justice youth advocates in Los Angeles. It's because of all this lying and obstruction that the oversight provisions of the price gouging penalty bill are so critical. Industry has gotten away with this by not sharing key pieces of information necessary for the government to do its job to protect California consumers against this predatory behavior. The price gouging penalty will add the needed transparency and prevent more predatory price spikes by penalizing the refineries when they occur. And when you move this critical legislation forward, I urge you to give the agencies the broadest and strongest investigative authority and clear mandates and deadlines to get the job done. We've heard some accusations today that the proposal won't work or it won't completely solve the problem, but those accusations are a lot easier to make given the secrecy this industry has enjoyed. Californians desperately need protection, and I urge you to get these important policies in place. Give the agencies the ability to adjust based on what they find and based on changing conditions. We've heard today also how industry's record profits from peak price spikes can only be explained by extreme profiteering. Industry's attempt to shift the blame for life-saving health and climate regulations has to be rejected. 69 cents for environmental programs does not explain the more than $2 differential between our prices and elsewhere. And on the other side of the ledger, for that 69 cents, we get programs that protect the air we breathe, the water we drink, and a livable climate. Our health and climate laws reduce asthma attacks, lost school and work days, and premature death. We need these laws that the oil industry is fighting against to accelerate the transition to clean, renewable energy that will free us from the harm this industry is inflicting. This is not some kind of neutral policy debate that is going on. This is really a matter of life and death. And so please do protect Californians by moving this critically important bill forward with the urgency that it deserves. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'm going to bring it back to the committee for questions. I appreciate all our presenters. Members have questions at this time. Senator Stern.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I'll pick up with the question posed by the last panelist. The delta between the sort of known surcharges, say the gas tax, cost of, say, environmental programs, winter blend, et cetera. So just take that snapshot of, say, 69 cents versus the $2. I'm wondering either the folks from either the downstream side or the upstream side of the oil industry, how do you explain that $1.30 delta?
Yeah, thank you, Senator, for the question. And I know John will jump in here, too. I think what's really important as we go forward and look at all of the specifics around this issue, that we also spend a little more time on the cost of doing business in California, because I'm not convinced we have correctly articulated the amount of dollars associated with the cost of doing business. I mean, on the refining side, it's 2 times the cost of doing business in the rest of the United States as a refiner. I know John has the list we heard about on the cost side that I don't think is reflected here. So as the onion gets peeled here, I think we are definitely looking at it, and I hope the committee will as well. We're going to encourage the Energy Commission too in its fuel transition study, which is going to be, by the way, a very important piece of this puzzle, is that study they'll be undertaking. And so I think you heard today that it's certainly not refinery margins, it's downstream of the refinery. And as we begin to see what those costs are and continue to look at it going forward. Hopefully that will bring some additional explanation.
So just speculation at this point, no knowledge. You don't have any knowledge running WISPA of any of the $1.30 being associated with expanded refiner profit margins?
No, and in fact, I couldn't and shouldn't. For, as you know, antitrust reasons, we would have no information on that specifically. But I would say that, again, you heard today all of the components that go into that. You heard,
we heard, and I heard from some industry representatives their take, and from others too. But it's specifically about the October 7th drop that's noted in one of the charts here from a 60-cent refining margin down to 36 cents. So basically cutting that in half immediately after the governor announced a special session that we're currently in.
Well, actually, what happened as a result of the governor's action on the waiver of winter to summer blend is why the market reacted the way it does, because it cost less money to make winter blend, and the market took advantage of having a reduced price. Nothing to do with a press release. It had to do with a waiver that brought more supply, more affordable supply to market.
When did that supply come into the market? Later in
Oh.
October, is my understanding. I thought like at the back end of October, and this drop was before that blend actually came online. So I'm just trying to put those facts together, because if you're saying it's just supply and demand, that doesn't quite line up with the timing. So,
well,
that's specifically a Valero issue too. So.
The other thing I would say, Senator, is, and to the committee, I have not heard this entire day or afternoon about the reduction in earnings from these companies in 2014 and 2015 and 2020, the billions of dollars that were lost. When you look at an annualized 3-year period, 5-year period, which is how anyone looks at earnings, we are well below S&P 500 companies, IT companies, communications companies, healthcare industry. So I would imagine this committee is going to be just as interested in those earnings that are well above this industry's when you take into fact it's a cycling industry, and there are ups and downs, and that's how you should look at earnings. That's how you should look at return on investment. It shouldn't be snapshots of 3 points in time.
In other words, the profits that were derived during this last cycle, there was a pressure on the oil companies to collect those large profits to deliver shareholder dividends because they hadn't collected that prior.
No, it's just basic market supply and demand. The price goes up, the price goes down. It's based on supply and demand, and that's for every commodity, any global commodity. And that's how businesses operate.
So you would assert perfect competition in this marketplace, then it's a perfectly functioning market.
I think competition is very good in any marketplace. And I think, as another panelist mentioned, I am concerned over the state's allowance of reduced gas stations throughout the state taken by local cities and counties. This is not increased competition. This is not the direction we should be going in limiting gas stations during this period of time.
Senator Gonzalez.
Yes, thank you very much. First, I have a question for Mr. Court on the virtual line here about, and thank you so much for your presentation, about the 50-cent cap. Have there been discussions about potentially a range in that cap?
I just leveled it off at 50 cents for the purposes of showing how extraordinary that line was, that only 3 times in the last 20 years it was exceeded. But I think the legislation itself does taper in the penalty. And what the governor's office was presenting today is a little different too. They were talking, I believe, about in a day when that refining margin goes up, as opposed to looking at it over a period of time. But the principle is the same. If you set an upper limit where there's a penalty, you keep it within a fair playing range.
Okay, thank you very much. And can you just go over, I know that you had one slide regarding the polling about Californians, and about 2/3 of Californians.
Yes.
Can you just go over that a bit? And then what are they attributing these excessive profits to?
Well, in the poll that we did, they believe it's price gouging. They believe it's price gouging more than environmental policy or taxes. And they believe that it's the oil companies penalizing them, and that's why they want to take that money back. And in the poll that Binder did, he broke it down a little bit more by demographics. The thing about the demographics are it is across the board, largely in almost every demographics except for white Republican men that support this penalty.
Okay, that's what I'm seeing too across various generations, Latino, Asian, African American, regional. It seems to be the same overwhelmingly 60% support this.
And that's after the arguments against it as well. That was the interesting thing. We gave arguments for, we gave arguments against, and the vote after the arguments against still came out over 60%.
Okay, thank you very much. And then I have a question, of course, a couple questions for Ms. Rees-Boyd as well as Mr. Wenger. I think you'd mentioned, Ms. Rees-Boyd, about your fiduciary responsibility to not incur taxes and fees. So can you explain that?
Not to violate the law.
Okay. Can you explain what?
So if you have a cap in place, we cannot violate the law. And so refiners will have to make decisions on to how to make sure they have a fiduciary responsibility to comply with the law. And so, again, this policy is not one that we believe will have the intended result that you would all expect. And so I think there are better ways, as we've discussed, to look at the price pressures at the pump, which is, I think, what we're all here for. It's not about earnings or profits. It's about relief at the pump. And I think, we've talked about ways to deal with that, including improved infrastructure, include permitting, include support for CCS and hydrogen or renewable diesel, renewable natural gas, all of which our companies are doing in spades, and to do things in the immediate term when price spikes happen, like waiver on winter to summer, perhaps looking at something on improved competition, as one of the economists had mentioned, from bringing carbob into the state, which is very difficult because not many produce it. It takes a long time to get here. So there's things, I think, like that to really explore as we peel the onion, but this bill is not one of them.
And so I guess my last question to both of you is, given your fiduciary responsibility, as you claim, and knowing that over the last year, it seems pretty clear to me, $200 billion is quite a lot of money for 5 of the largest oil companies to be making, while Californians were paying the most at the pump across the country. Do you not find this excessive? And if you don't, why not?
Again, I think I answered the question previously. You look at earnings over a period of time, and our earnings are well below many, many of the S&P 500 companies. And so,
these are historic earnings, though.
No, they're not that historic. They're in the last 3 annualized years. So if we haven't submitted that material to you, we will, because those graphs and data are readily available, certainly from the federal government and the state government. So again, I think as we look at this issue, let's really focus on relief at the pump, and it is not through a price cap as proposed in this bill. There are other ways to deal with relief at the pump, and this is not one of them.
Mr. Wagner, would you like to respond?
Yeah, I can't speak to the 5 companies. I represent the 12,000, small mom and pop gas stations in the state. But I think, those are results of prices going up, not the cause. The cause is very clearly lack of supply. And every time we see something happen at a refinery, unplanned maintenance, where the supply suddenly goes down, we see the spot market increase. We see traders jack the price up. And it's an extremely volatile market for our folks at the retail level, trying to figure out how the market's going to work. One marketer told me in San Francisco, there's such little liquidity there that one trade could impact the price significantly. So it's a very difficult thing to predict at the street level.
Well, my last comment, it's not a question, it's just the last comment. It is, a lot of billions of dollars, 34 billion in lobbying last year, 20 million spent to overturn a law to protect health for Californians, and 20 million in signature gathering to overturn this law, along with additional $50 billion just with Exxon for stock buybacks. I would think that those dollars, billions of dollars being spent on this, could have been used to actually support Californians, to actually been used to provide competition here, to transition, as we've been talking about, and I don't see that. And so this is why I think, wholeheartedly, we need to ask these questions and find out more from each and every one of you on data and the transparency that is needed for every Californian. So with that.
With all due respect, Senator, we have and are investing billions of dollars in alternative renewable fuels, in hydrogen, and CCS, and everything this state needs to meet its climate change goals. We are not opposed to those goals. We just think there's a more affordable path to get there. And we are not involved in funding the referendum. WISPA is not involved in funding the referendum. My members are not involved in funding the referendum. That does not mean, we support setbacks. We just support them that are based on science and facts. But we are not involved in the referendum that you're referring to, and we are not spending dollars supporting it.
Well, the SB 1137 had a slew of panelists, scientists, that did in fact state that a setback was needed. So
there are just as many scientists that have alternative views.
Thank you. Senator Ashby.
Thank you very much. And while I appreciate the previous two sets of panelists, this panel is probably just a little more my speed. Really clear who you're with and what you stand for, all four of you, and passionately advocating on behalf of your organizations. So a little easier for me to sort of walk through, and I appreciate that. And I particularly appreciate, too, the balance on this particular panel. Ms. Boyd and Ms. Siegel, if you hadn't shown up today, we would have heard from 9 men panelists, and I'm glad to see you both. So thank you for being here and taking some time and bringing your expertise, both of you, all of you, to the equation. Mr. Wanger, you are not wrong. I come from local government. 3 months ago I was a vice mayor, and today I'm a senator. And it is not easy to open a gas station in a big city in California, and it is, I don't even know if it's possible for a small independent right now. That would be really challenging. So, you make good points, all of you, and I really actually quite enjoyed hearing the passionate display from all 4 panelists, including the 2 on Zoom. It comes across. Mr. Court and Ms. Siegel, in case you were wondering, you sound just as passionate across the screen as they do here in person. I do have one question, and it's really just because actually after all of this time today, I haven't heard it addressed. And Ms. Boyd, it's probably best posed to you. In the governor's proposal, part of what he talks about, or part of what I've heard a lot about, is around when the refineries can shut down for maintenance. I understand that needs to happen. That's obvious. Also understand that there could be a variety of reasons why that needs to happen. But I've also heard part of the discussion be around if multiple refineries shut down at the same time, that creates a supply issue. I've also heard many people tell us today that this is about a supply issue. So wouldn't there be some rationale in at least coordinating and discussing when refineries would shut down so that they didn't all do it at the same time, or so that the state could plan for such an instance? Because to me, that seems to be a conflicting issue here. Can you help me better understand that?
Yes, that's a great question, and thank you for it. Our companies report turnaround information to the Department of Industrial Relations. Other information is reported to the Energy Commission, as you know, on the market side. Often the Energy Commission calls our members and asks these questions, and there's informal conversations and sharing of information that is PIRA protected. And I think the biggest issue for us is, as long as, and it should be for this commission, and I think the Energy Commission and the Attorney General would agree, it should be protected under PIRA. And so if that is some information and coordination between those two agencies that need to occur, we certainly are very open to talking about that. On the transparency side, even with SB 1322, Senator Stern, with all due respect, we very much, although we didn't support the bill, and we didn't support the bill not because of the bill itself, we didn't support it because it had the clarity it needed for our companies to give the data that actually would benefit the Energy Commission in some consistent manner. And so we received letters from the Energy Commission encouraging us to request a rulemaking, which we did in a letter to them. WISPA received this letter. Every refinery received this letter. We responded in asking for a rulemaking. I was called by the Energy Commission to say that wasn't the right process, and I said, okay, good to know. What is the right process? You need to petition. And I go, okay, great. How do we do that? They defined it for us. We petitioned. I did briefings with every energy commissioner except one who's still being scheduled, and our desire to provide consistency and data from the refiners so that the Energy Commission gets the information, not from 7 different interpretations, but that there is some data that's provided that can be of benefit. This was all in the spirit of transparency. That petition was denied in a 12-hour period after all the briefings had taken place, and the answer I was given was frankly because there's information now in this hearing we're being discussed, and so we don't think we should spend time on a rulemaking in 1322. I was appalled, and so I think when we talk transparency, we're all about it, and any assertions that we're not are totally incorrect.
So just one, and this will be my final sort of question on it. I hear the frustration, but I also heard in there an openness to some kind of dialogue around coordination of when the refineries do maintenance and shut down, as long as you could be assured some privacy guarantees, which could potentially be helpful in this discussion, because you can't both say that it's supply and then also say that, shutting off supply at the same time doesn't create the issue. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, Senator Sayalto.
Ciarto, thank you. Not a problem. Well, this has been an interesting day, and I could summarize what I've learned today by just saying that, obviously, there are 1,000 different opinions about the oil industry, about what's causing high gas prices, about the effect it's having on our people, and our energy policy, essentially. And that's really what it all boils down to. I'm not going to rehash the bill from last year, but I do have a question for Ms. Siegel. Are you there?
Ms. Siegel?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, she's still there. Okay. You're familiar with a lot of these cities that I'm going to list here: Long Beach, Signal Hill, San Pedro, Huntington Beach, Beverly Hills, El Segundo, Baldwin Hills, Culver City, and Torrance. Some of them are just, those are cities that as a battalion chief I used to get to cover. And all of those cities are cities that I don't know that I would characterize them as a minority or disadvantaged communities, and yet most of the oil wells that we're aware of, we didn't have to deal with them very much, were all located in those communities. And the communities that were there, the houses that were within the prescribed distance that were supposed to be harmful were not houses that I could afford. And so I'm kind of curious which of the poor communities are you talking about that you have found these oil wells that are doing this damage to our communities?
Yeah, so over 2 million people in California live within 3,200 feet of a toxic oil and gas well. And so that people from all walks of life live near these wells. So that is true. Everybody is affected. But these wells are disproportionately located in low-income communities of color that already breathe some of the unhealthiest air in the nation.
Right.
Los Angeles in particular, Los Angeles has the country's largest urban oil field. And it's children and the elderly that are most affected, right? And so this is dirty, dangerous stuff. You do not want to be living next to an oil well. People who live near this stuff, they get headaches, they get nosebleeds, they get nauseous. One young woman, Nayeli Kobo, who won the Goldman Prize for environmental activism this year, she grew up next to an oil well. She had to sleep sitting up in a chair so she wouldn't choke on her own blood from the nosebleeds that she got from this toxic air pollution. And over the long term, these chemicals increase your risk of cancer. They increase the risk of death from cardiovascular disease, and they even harm babies in their mother's wombs. Right. And so it is so critical that we protect Californians from this toxic industry. California is one of the last states in the nation that did not have a health buffer between oil wells and homes and schools until Senator Gonzalez's bill passed last year. So that's a little bit about some of the people in the communities that I'm talking about.
And thank you for that. But I also know those communities quite well, and the people are not packing up and fleeing for their lives, and they've been there a long time. So another in the villainization of our petroleum producing world, there's a lot of other products that are byproducts of petroleum. And they include medical supplies like IVs, IV bags, the blood, when you go give blood, the blood packets, those are made with petroleum products. Furniture, windmills, solar panels, tires, road material, cooking food. If we got rid of the oil industry tomorrow, what's your proposal for replacing all of those?
Yeah, so here's the thing about petroleum and where we are with this, right? Like 50 years
just
ago,
briefly, if you can. I'm sorry, I know it's a long subject. We could do all night on it.
Yeah, absolutely. There are cleaner, healthier alternatives for oil, for energy use. You didn't hear too much about it today at this hearing, but back in November, the CEC hearing, the Air did a big presentation on the electrification of the vehicle fleet, right? 1 in 5 cars, well, in California right now, is an electric vehicle. The transition is starting to happen. There are alternatives, but the oil industry chose for over half a century to lie about the science, to lie about the harm that their products cause, and to block solutions. The world would be a very different place right now with much cleaner, healthier, safer alternatives had this massive disinformation campaign not be undertaken. So I thank you for your question, and I would commend to you the references that I've put on your handout that talk about the scale of the disinformation, the lying, the astroturfing, and the lobbying that we're up against. This is the richest and most powerful industry on earth. It has inflicted almost unspeakable damage on us and our climate. And
thank you. I think you answered the initial question. And basically, there is no replacement for them right now. And so that would cause a massive, massive problem for us if we just make. And my point is this. We're making a transition to try to be more environmentally conscious. We're trying to do things that are healthier for our communities, but you can't do them overnight. And what we are experiencing right now with our oil prices is not unpredictable. These are things that we talked about a few years ago when they were talking about we're going to move tomorrow to do all this stuff. Well, guess what? You've just created a market that is highly sensitive to us pulling back on the things that we're used to, which is oil and gas and things like that, and making those prices spike. And we really don't have anything to replace them yet. And we make, by the way, those EV vehicles are made with petroleum products. We don't have anything to replace it right now. We need a better energy policy that allows us to make transitions to the point that we can, because we are not ever going to be non-dependent on that energy source. And that's what, for me, that's what I'm getting out of this is we need to be more cognizant of the transition that we're making and be more responsible about it, because there is way too much collateral damage, and that collateral damage is our people out there paying $7 a gallon for gas, me paying $550 for heating, because I did get my energy rebate of $50. Otherwise, it would have been $610, and that's going on all over, and people can't afford that. We have an energy policy that's creating that, and I appreciate the oil industry. I appreciate all of the other industries trying to address this, but at the end of the day, we really need to re-examine the direction we're going in and try to modify that so that we can be more responsible to our constituents.
Thank you. Senator Mann.
Thank you, Chair Bradford. I will respectfully disagree with some of the comments my predecessor just made. I don't think this is a result of energy policy. I think it's the result of a economic model that is clearly flawed. And I will just say, earlier in response to my colleague Senator Stern, I think, Ms. Boyd, you said this is a competitive market. It's working just fine. I don't know how you can make that claim, given what I understand of this market. There are 5 players in the refinery industry. 5 players. Now, I want to read you the definition of oligopoly. I don't have a whiteboard, but I'll just read it to you. A state of limited competition in which a market is shared by a small number of producers or sellers. 5 producers, I think, fits that definition pretty well. This is a thinly traded market, as we heard before from a witness who testified that there were no trades on the spot market in 2 weeks. That is a market that is rife for manipulation. It's rife for coordination. And as I expressed earlier, I do have concerns about this proposal, but from the governor, I don't think there's a smoking gun at this point. That being said, I think this is a broken market. It is one in which oil companies like yours were able to issue record share buybacks. I believe last year your company authorized $2.5 billion in share buybacks, while my constituents were paying $7, $8 at the pump. I don't know what planet we can live on and say that this is a competitive market that works just fine. As for the share price back in 2013, I know you go back to 2013-14. I just looked this up. You were trading at $27.03 in 2013. Today, you are trading at $130.67. That is a model of a broken economic model. I think we have to do something about that. I don't think this is a problem of energy policy on our end. I think this is a problem with a broken market. We have to fix it. And I do think we need answers and accountability here, because I don't know where the blame lies. I've heard a lot of testimony today. But the fact of the matter is that a number of companies were making record profits. They were deploying those profits to their shareholders, which I understand is your right to do, but they were doing that in a very oligopolic market. Thank you. You get my point. Market at a time again when our constituents were paying outrageous fees that were bankrupting some of them. And I think at the end of the day, we cannot say that is a market that works. We do have to fix it. And I do think we need answers at the end of the day. So I want to thank the chair for holding this. I want to thank the governor for introducing this policy to jumpstart a conversation about what to do next, because I do think we need answers, we need solutions, so that my constituents, this situation never happens again. I'm sure you can understand the optics of you guys making record profits at a time when prices at the pump were ridiculously high. That's something that can't happen again. We got to fix that. So that's really not a question so much as a comment. I guess I would open it up if there's any reactions from any of the witnesses.
Yeah, Senator, thank you. I appreciate you listening today and keeping an open mind to the complexity of this issue. And thank God we have 5 companies, because we used to have 19. and it is a difficult place to do business, and we have lost many participants in the market because of that. And so those that remain are here to supply the California market and meet demand. That's what they do every single day, so that this state can continue to move and that it's not shut down. And in 2035, we're still going to have 83% need for gasoline, 76% need for diesel. We've got a long path to go on this. So I appreciate also Chair and the committee for holding this, because we've got to figure it out. Like I said at the end, I still think we're more united than we are divided at trying to make sure we find relief at the pump, which is what this is about.
Do either of the other witnesses on the panel have any thoughts on this?
We're trying to move along, so if they have a quick answer, please.
I just wanted to say, I think that there is obviously a refining problem, but I also think there is a mystery surcharge problem, and I think the refining problem is easier to deal with. The mystery surcharge problem, I fully support the idea of going into those contracts between the refiners and the retailers and see what's going on. I suspect you'll find that there is actually a kickback or some type of contract that gives the refiners money back from the retailers, but that is going to take investigation. I support that investigation, but while we have them in a year where there's huge differences, we really need to make it happen this year at the refining level and deal with the refining surcharge this year and the mystery surcharge next year.
Thank you. If you're going to answer real quick, Ms.